With the success of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, it had me theorizing who could we possibly see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie that would catch us by surprise. Not Vanessa, not Henry Emily, not all these people. I'm talking about big, deep surprises that we could possibly see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie. Let's start with one of the ones that had me thinking about. One of the ones that definitely had me thinking about was the inclusion of Lefty. Now, yes, we know Lefty in Fnaf 6. His main job was basically to capture the puppet, was to bring the puppet into the Five Nights at Freddy's 6 location to burn it all down, and basically trap the puppet in the Five Nights at Freddy's 6 location using Lefty to control the puppet. Now, this had me thinking, if we go the angle of Five Nights at Freddy's 6 is going to be the main source material of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, they're going to burn the place down, Henry Emily, Matthew Lillard, William Afton, all of them in there, right, burning the place down. Could we possibly see the inclusion of Lefty being in the movie? This had me thinking that, and yes, I could see it if Henry Emily builds a contraption to seal Vanessa and the puppet all into an animatronic. That could work. That could bait Vanessa into going into an animatronic, which then Henry Emily operates and shocks Vanessa and has her tied up into the suit. That's something we possibly could see, thinking about it. Again, if the whole point of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the movie, is going to be seeing Matthew Lillard, William Afton, Springtrap, going crazy, figuring stuff out, finding all the problems, and Vanessa is going to be tied into that being Charlotte and the puppet, we could possibly see Henry Emily go to Mike Schmidt and be like, hey, I need you to set this trap for Vanessa. I need you to go and bait Vanessa to go into this animatronic, go into this, door, go into this place, and whatever, how they're going to do it, and possibly put her into the Lefty suit. That'd be really cool, man, to see Vanessa inside the fully operational Lefty suit, and basically Henry Emily controls the Lefty suit, right? He's the one controlling it. He's the one shocking her if she gets too wild and stuff like that. That could possibly be something we see. That could maybe be something we see. That's something we highly could see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie, just because of, the layout and the source that we're going to get. If they're going to go with Five Nights at Freddy's 6, which I highly believe that Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie will be operating as Five Nights at Freddy's 6, that source material, that's something we possibly could see. We could see the inclusion of maybe not Lefty or some sort of an animatronic like Lefty. Lefty's main job was basically to control the puppet. We know that. In the picture of Five Nights at Freddy's 6, we see in the back alleyway the stripes going down Lefty's left arm, going down Lefty's right arm. Like, we know Lefty's main job was to control the puppet. Fired by Henry Emily. Maybe Henry Emily builds an animatronic that traps Vanessa along with the puppet. That's one animatronic we possibly could see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 6 location. Number two of a person we probably might be able to see in Five Nights at Freddy's 6. I do think Garrett is for sure going to be a lock that we have to see in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 for many reasons. Number one, Garrett is one of the big plot holes that we got in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. No mention of him at all. What? How are you not going to mention Garrett? He's super important. He's Mike Schmidt's little brother. Again, if they pull the role that Garrett was like an off-screen kill or just a regular kill that didn't really mean much, that's one thing. But again, it just to me seemed Garrett was so important that Mike Schmidt wanted to go into this dream sequence knowing who Garrett was. What's the backstory of Garrett? Exactly what it is. I initially thought that Garrett was going to be the puppet. I do thought eventually Garrett was going to be the first victim that William Afton took, and he was going to eventually be the puppet. But again, I was wrong. It ended up being Charlotte Emily. Again, people are like, oh, but look at the books. Guys, the movies are completely different than the books and the games. We know that for sure. 100% we know that for sure. They're very different. Everything's very different. So I did think Garrett was going to be the puppet, but no. So that means that Garrett has to be included somehow in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I don't know how they're going to do it. Again, if Garrett's like a regular kill that didn't really mean much, that's one thing. But again, if Garrett had some meaningful, if he was meaningful to the lore and to the story, they have to put him in there somehow. They can't leave Garrett end with that plot hole, man. That's a big problem that a lot of people had in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. They were like, where's Garrett? All these plot holes. This doesn't make sense. What the heck is Michael Afton doing in here? All that stuff. Like, what is Baby doing in here? What the heck? We saw her for 3 seconds. Like, all that stuff makes sense. But again, like, they can easily, we know Scott. Scott says what he likes to do is solve mysteries that happened in the previous game in the next game. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Five Nights at Freddy's 5. All the stuff that we had questions on in previous games was solved in the next movie. So I do think that's what he's going to do. All the questions that we had in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 will be answered in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Hopefully not to create more questions about Five Nights at Freddy's 3, but that's another topic. Like, that's what he does. In Five Nights at Freddy's 1, people said, I want it to be scarier, I want it to be bigger, badder, all that stuff. That's exactly what they did. They made it bigger, scarier, more intense, more animatronics and stuff like that. So that's a second animatronic or second person we might be able to see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie. We have Lefty and we have Garrett. And the last person in my mind that we could possibly see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 universe maybe going to be the inclusion of Elizabeth Afton or the Crying Child. I think those two are essential essential for the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 lore and the Five Nights at Freddy's lore in general. Those are some of the most important characters, Crying Child and Elizabeth Afton. How are they not going to be included? Now, again, if they pull the route of Elizabeth Afton is Vanessa in the movie, that's one thing. We don't have a smaller daughter. It's just Vanessa is going to be the main daughter, which is fine. That's fine. But again, Elizabeth Afton gets scooped by Baby, the whole spill like that. What's that avenue? Or the Crying Child. Again, Garrett could also be the Crying Child, the version of the Crying Child in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie universe. Again, we know it's different. We know the Crying Child is another son to William Afton. We know that. But again, it's very different in the movies. We have to adjust it and take the source material of the games and putting it into the movie, even if it's not that accurate. Maybe Garrett's the Crying Child, but I don't know. There has to be some inclusion of the Crying Child and Elizabeth Afton. We know that there's big pieces inside the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. William Afton, Michael Afton, which is the son trying to avenge him. And all we're missing from the Afton family is Elizabeth Afton and Crying Child. Those are the two that we're missing from the series of the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. Again, they've done so many things well, but those are two big characters you have to include. I would love to see them taking the route that Vanessa Afton got scooped when she was younger and she's the one possessing Baby. Again, that's a very, very far theory that a lot of people were talking to me about, that, oh, it doesn't make sense, she was bleeding and stuff like that. Again, I'm not sure about that. I know that happened. If they make it where Vanessa Afton was a robot, my whole thing is this: if they pull the route that Vanessa is a robot and she ended up possessing Baby when she was younger, because again, that green eyes, it's so important to me, man. I get it, people don't want to hear it. It's so important to me seeing those green eyes. How could you look at me and say that doesn't matter? Of course that matters. Who is possessing Baby? We know Baby's eyes are green. She was possessed by Elizabeth Afton. Who is possessing Baby in Five Nights at Freddy's 2? That's my main question. Who is possessing Baby? Someone has to be possessing Baby. She wasn't being possessed by anybody that would make her eyes blue. Her eyes are green for a reason. 100%. We know that stuff matters in the Five Nights at Freddy's lore and the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. That stuff matters. So any inclusion of Elizabeth Afton or the Crying Child, I believe we might see in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I think Five Nights at Freddy's 3, we're going to get a lot of flashback. We're going to get a lot of origin stories for Henry Emily, for the creation of Spring Bonnie, for the creation of this guy, William Afton, of wanting to do this, experiencing with Remnant, Cooper, all that stuff. I do think we're going to get heavy implications in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. What do you guys think, man? Am I right? Am I wrong? Lefty, Garrett, Crying Child, or Elizabeth Afton? Those are 3 characters or 4 characters that we might possibly see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 universe. Those are 3 to 4 characters we might possibly see in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. Again, all these characters are essential to the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, whether it's Lefty capturing the puppet, whether it's Garrett, what his role is going to be, and overall Elizabeth Afton and the Crying Child. Guys, but what do you guys think in the comments, man? Who do you want to see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 universe? Who do you think will make sense if we see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 universe? And if you guys can, man, hit that like button, hit that sub button. We're posting new videos every single day, whether it's Fnaf, the Avengers, Mario, Sonic, whatever it is, man. We are posting new stuff every single day. But yeah, man, if you guys can, hit that like button, hit that sub button. Amen. See you guys in the next video.